Somewhere. They're coming to you. Time to go. You'll be fine. It'll be good. You'll do well.
Good evening, everyone. We're going to start the meeting momentarily.
6 o'clock, Mr. Chairman?
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Welcome to the Winnebago County Board meeting. Tonight is Thursday, August 25th, 2022. Tonight, our invocation of Pledge Allegiance is by Board Member Dave Tassoni. Please stand.
Dear Lord, we thank you for the opportunity to enjoy another day on this great earth and enjoy life as you created it for us. We ask that you protect all of those that protect our freedoms and keep us safe. In your name, amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the
flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Tassoni. Mr. Thompson, are there any adjustments to the agenda this evening?
No changes, thank you.
Thank you. Clerk Gummo, can you please call the roll?
Certainly. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We will start with Mr. McDonald. Mr. Neighbors.
Here.
Mrs. Red. Mr. Salgado. Mr. Schultz.
Here.
Mr. Sweeney.
Present.
Mr. Tassoni. Mr. Webster. Mr. Westcott. Mr. Arena. Mr. Booker.
Present.
Mr. Butita.
Here.
Mrs. Crosby. Here. Ms. Fellers.
Here.
Mr. Girl. Mrs. Gorel.
Present.
Mr. Hoffman. Mr. Kelly. Mr. Lindmark. Mr. McCarthy. Thank you all. Mr. Chairman, 16 board members present, 4 board members absent.
Thank you. We do have a quorum. Moving on our agenda, we do not have any awards, presentations, public hearings, or proclamations this evening, but we do have public participation. We have one speaker. I'll read the comments here. The comments shall be limited to 3 minutes. Speakers may not address zoning matters which are pending before the ZBA, zoning committee, or the county board. Personnel matters or pending or threatened litigation may not be addressed in open session. An individual may speak a maximum of 3 times per calendar year on the same topic. This prohibition shall include the repetition of the same topic in a statement on what is purported to be a different topic. Personal attacks or inappropriate language of any sort will not be tolerated. Tonight we have Speaker Reverend Earl Dotson Sr.
The Bible. And it shall come to pass when they make a long shout with the ram's horn, and all the people shall shout with a great shout, and the wall of the city shall fall down flat. Shout, for the Lord have given you the city. We at the Ministers for Manufacturing are in a celebratory mood ever since President Biden signed the $280 billion CHIP and Scientific Act, including $52 billion for manufacturing, convinced that the walls of exclusion, disinvestment, blindness of the potential of black citizens, black Einsteins, who, given the opportunities, will contribute mightily to America's national defense as it faces a dangerous and hostile China, all fueled by fear and racism. The walls have fallen down flat. Now, while enthusiastic and optimistic, we are demanding oversight of how the billions that will come to Illinois will make sure that some come to black-owned organizations and businesses, such as ours. One that especially grips me is a section that talks about research and development. I've shared with some local politicians. Can you imagine what a research and development facility would look like on the west side of Rockford, adjacent to Church School, where you have scientists of every size and description making things that develop, that helps America face this hostile enemy? Once that $600 to $700 million comes to our organization, we will exult like Joshua's followers did, knowing that the God has truly given us the city. I conclude by these few words from the Black National Anthem. Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring. Ring with the harmony of liberty. Let our rejoicing it rise as high as the listening skies. Let it resound as loud as the rolling sea.
Thank you. Moving on to item number 6, the approval of minutes. May I entertain a motion to approve the July 28th, 2022 meetings and lay over the August 11th, 2022 meetings. Motion by Ms. Gorel, second by Ms. Fellers. Is there any discussion? Are there any board members opposed to this motion to approve? Hearing none, please cast a yes for all members present. Number 7, the consent agenda. May I entertain a motion to approve the raffle report and the auditor's report? Mr. McDonald's motion, second by Mr. Booker. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, are there any board members opposed to this motion? Very good. Please cast a yes for all members present. We do not have any appointments to read in tonight. We'll move on to reports of standing committees. The Finance Committee, Mr. Jaime Salgado.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Finance Committee has 2 items tonight. The first one's a resolution authorizing the lump sum payment for the American Rescue Plan ARP funds to eligible non-bargaining unit employees in specific county departments. And I so move on that.
Moved by Mr. Salgado. Is there a second? Second by Mr. McCarthy. Discussion?
Yes, so there was some discussion at our last finance meeting about the $2 million appropriation for this, and the $2,000 for the for each non-bargaining unit employee. There was questions on that, on the different process, how it was selected. There was no scientific method to this. There is an exhibit of the different county departments from the 911, Animal Services Auditor, and so forth down the line. There wasn't, the only criteria, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Rickard, Mr. Thompson, is that they had to be employed before January 1st of this year. Is that my assumption, correct? So, so there was discussion about that. Mr. Arena expressed that during the Republican caucus, there were some questions arose. I told him that obviously this would be the venue if they want to either, if there's still questions unclear, whatever, we can push it back and lay it over until another time. But, you know, from my perspective, you know, Mr. Arena, he's not here tonight. So, but if there are questions, we can attempt to answer those questions. But I'd like to move this forward as we are in talks right now with the labor contract negotiations. So this would obviously help us in that direction. But I'm here to entertain. If there are questions and more discussion needs to be had, we can always lay this over as well. So I just wanted to give that opportunity to everybody and kind of understand where we're at on that, for that.
Thank you, Mr. Salgado. Is there any board member discussion on this item? All right, hearing none, are there any board members opposed to this resolution? All right, please cast a yes for all members present. Mr. Salgado.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Our last item for this evening is a resolution authorizing an increase in the salary of the Winnebago County Public Defender, and I so move.
Moved by Mr. Salgado, second by Mr. Gurl. Discussion?
Yeah, just real quick, it's pretty standard procedure. Based on the state's attorney's salary, obviously it's funded for the public defender as well. The dollar amount is $169,878.39, so this is pretty standard for that.
Very good. Any other board member discussion? Hearing none. Oh, Ms. Fellers.
I just have a quick question. I'm not sure if my memory is serving me correctly, but we voted recently on an increase in salary for the sheriff. And if I remember correctly, the sheriff's salary was directly influenced by the state's attorney's salary. Is that correct?
I would defer to
correct.
Mr. Rickert. I don't have that information.
That's correct.
Yes. Okay, so does this increase in the state's attorney's salary trigger another increase in the sheriff's salary?
This is for the public defender's position.
Okay, great. Thank
Yep.
you for clarification.
Any other discussion or questions? Okay, are there any board members opposed to this resolution? All right, hearing none, please cast a yes for all members present. Mr. Salgado.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. One last item. Next week, we're going to have our finance meeting. I know there's been talks about potentially freezing River Bluff tax levy increase on that. There's been discussion about that. Our reserves are well maintained right now, so there's discussion about not doing that and taking that. For next week's discussion, we will present the budget the way it is currently. If there are amendments that need to be made, we'll make them on the floor or in committee. So if the board member decides, hey, let's take, instead of 5% inflation rate, 3%, 2%, or nothing, we can certainly entertain those at the committee, move forward. I just think creating different scenarios for Mr. Rickert's team from that perspective is just, counterproductive from my perspective, right? Making it easier for them. But they're aware that that's something that can be discussed, and that is an option for them, so they're aware of it. They'll be prepared to at least throw some numbers out there in case that comes around. But we will have that discussion, and moving forward, that's what will be presented next Thursday. We'll have the discussions on what direction the county board wants to move. I know there's also, Tom McNamara just came out with an article saying to encourage local officials, residents to express, opposition to increasing the tax levies because the city of Rockford and the Rockford School District, I believe they're holding it flat, so they'd like to do that. There's some commentary that we can discuss on that, but there's pros and cons to that, and obviously we're not a home rule, so we can't impose our utility taxes that way, so which kind of our only form of revenue right now is property tax from that perspective, or fees at the court and so forth in the health department. So just wanted to bring that up since there is discussion rumbling around there. I just wanted to address it here and make sure that when we're talking about those things next week, we have that opportunity to do so. And if we need to make adjustments, we certainly can entertain those. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Salgado. We'll move on to the zoning committee. Mr. Webster.
Thank you. Your zoning committee has two items tonight. They're in for a first reading. For the record, item number 1 is Z0522. It's a map amendment, County Board District 4. That met with approval, unanimous approval, both from the Zoning Board of Appeals and the Zoning Committee. Item number 2 is Z0622, and that's also a map amendment, and that also, that's in District 11, by the way, and that also met with full approval from the Zoning Board of Appeals and the Zoning Committee. So in that light, I'm reading them in for the first reading, but I would also suggest maybe suspending rules.
Is that a motion?
That's a motion, yes.
Moved to suspend by Mr. Webster, second by Mr. Sweeney. Are there any board members opposed to that motion to suspend?
Is that on both?
On both?
On both, yes, sorry.
Any board members opposed to suspending the rules on 1 and 2? Very good. Please cast yes for all members present. Mr. Webster.
Okay, then I'd move to approve both of them.
Very good. There's a motion to approve both by Mr. Webster, second by Mr. Sweeney. Is there any discussion on either of these items? Hearing none, are there any board members opposed to this motion to approve number 1 and 2? Very good. Please cast yes for all members present. Mr. Webster.
Okay, thank you. That's all we have, except Tuesday, September 13th, ZBA will meet, and we will follow up on Wednesday, September 21st. And we have a number of items on both of those. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to Economic Development Committee. Mr. Sweeney.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We don't have a report tonight, but we will have a committee meeting this upcoming Monday, the 29th, at 5:30 PM in room 303.
Very good, thank you. Operation and Administrative Committee, Mr. McDonald.
No report.
Thank you, Mr. McDonald. Public Works Committee, Mr. Tassoni.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Your Public Works Committee brings forth 2 resolutions this evening. The first item is 22-030. It's a resolution authorizing an intergovernmental agreement between the County of Winnebago and the County of Stevenson for roadway maintenance, and I would so move.
Moved by Mr. Tassoni, seconded by Mr. Gurl. Any discussion? All right. Hearing none, are there any board members opposed to this resolution? Very good. Please cast a yes for all members present. Mr. Tassoni.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Our next item is Resolution 22-031. It's a resolution authorizing the operation of non-highway vehicles on South Street, County Highway 62, and Crowley Road, County Highway 79, within the village of Durand, and I would so move.
Moved by Mr. Tassoni, second by Mr. Webster. Is there any discussion? Mr. Webster.
There we go, slight malfunction. Okay, yeah, thank you. This is my district, and I was very happy to support this. It's a smaller community, Durand, and many of the smaller communities that are north of here, I say, and including Pecatana, actually, they like to run around town there on their ATVs, or ATVs. And so I think that it's important for them to be allowed to do that, and this only pertains to the 2 county highways that are within the village of Durand. So the rest of the villages, they can do what they want as long as it's within their village, but it just so happens there's 2 county highways in Durand, so they had to get our okay to run on theirs. And so we did that, and I think the important thing about this is this could get the ball rolling, because once again, like I said, Peck does it, I believe, Mr. Booker, and if Durand's ordinance is copied in some fashion, which I believe it is, I think Rockton's looking at it, and possibly Roscoe as well. And so I think you may see this coming up in the future on these other communities as well. And if we follow suit on them, good for them, and it's just for running on their own streets there. That's all I got to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Webster. Any further discussion on this item? Are there any board members opposed to this resolution? Very good. Please cast a yes for all members present. Mr. Tassoni.
Thank you, Chairman. That concludes our report.
Thank you, Mr. Tassoni. Move on to Public Safety and Judiciary Committee. Mr. Gurl.
Thank you, Chairman. Public Safety Judiciary has 3 items for you this evening. First is a resolution with intent to establish the Winnebago County Citizens Crime Commission, and I so move.
Moved by Mr. Gurl, second by Mr. Lindmark. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, are there any board members opposed to this resolution? Very good. Please cast a yes for all members present. Mr. Gurl.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Next is a resolution accepting award and authorizing service agreement for police services for the Winnebago County Forest Preserve District, and I so move.
Moved by Mr. Gurl, second by Mr. Booker. Discussion? Hearing none, are there any board members opposed to this resolution? Very good. Please cast yes for all members present. Mr. Gurl.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Next and last is a resolution authorizing the chairman of the county board to execute a Winnebago County Mental Health Board funding agreement and services agreement, and I so move.
Moved by Mr. Gurl, second by Ms. Gorel. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, are there any board members opposed to this resolution? Very good. Please cast yes for all members present. Mr. Gurl.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That concludes our report.
Thank you, Mr. Gurl. We'll move on to unfinished business. Is there any unfinished business before the board this evening? Mr. Sweeney.
I meant to ask a question during finance, just I was in a couple conversations and want a clarification from the state's attorney's office, but for point of information, in the committee of a whole, when we meet on the budget, are amendments to the budget allowed in that meeting, or is it just in the committee meetings and the actual budget meeting?
Thank you, Chairman. It's my understanding they're only allowed during committee and at the county board meeting.
So that's an informational meeting
Correct.
only.
Committee of the whole is for discussion purposes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other unfinished business? Very good. We'll move on to new business. Is there any new business in front of the board this evening? Very good. Announcements and communications. Clerk Gumow.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The items listed below were received as correspondence.
Very good. Any other communications? Mr. Webster. He's moving to adjourn. Very good. Is there a second? Mr. Sweeney. Any discussion on the adjournment? Mr. Thornbush.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to remind everybody your ARP chairman initiatives are due at the end of next month, so if you still have some funds remaining, please reach out to us and we'll get you the forms and get that going. But you have about a month to get everything in if you have funds remaining. Thanks.
Very good. Any other discussion on the adjournment? Hearing none, all board members in favor of adjourning, say aye. Aye. Opposed?